about a thing, sir. As far as I'm concerned, you're 4 inches taller than I am, and that's the end of it.
Welcome to episode 37 of the Columbo podcast, where 4 inches is the height of nonsense.
We don't go much beyond that with our nonsense.
Nah, not at all. Good evening, Ian.
How are you?
I'm very relaxed this week.
You're much more placid, shall you say.
Calm, enjoying it. Oh, what a pleasure it was to watch Fade into Murder.
You've given one last salute to season 5.
Yeah.
And sent it off
It was
into the water.
It was a very specific type of salute I gave it. This episode redeemed Columbo. I've had a smile on my face all week since watching it.
Albeit many months later.
Very many months later. It's...
Can you imagine being left over an entire summer thinking about that last episode?
Oh, yeah, that would be dreadful as a fan, but I'm thinking that as a studio exec, you may have been quite nervous because the reviews, I'm assuming, were poor, and to leave, people might unsubscribe from the show. You'd be worried about that.
It's lucky that no one unsubscribes from our show.
It's also interesting because, as we'll come to discuss in this podcast episode, there was negotiations for, which are hinted at very strongly in this episode, there was negotiations for Peter Falk to renew, and he's not left himself in the strongest of you wouldn't have thought, of bargaining positions based
Although
on
there is an indication in that last episode that the negotiations may well have been concluded with him.
That's true. For me, this episode was pretty much perfect. What did you think?
I really enjoyed it. One of my favourites.
Really?
Top 7.
Glad to hear that. So Columbo wasn't soured for you. I mean, you weren't as big a critic last week, actually, as I was.
No, but watching this one highlights the things that we saw in the previous one that you were pointing out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
by
just,
their absence. Yeah,
this episode to me is pretty much perfect.
It's a good story. It's got a good motive. It's a good killing. It's a good sort of tete-a-tete between Columbo and the killer. What more do you want? Fantastic performance from the murderer.
Lots of good performances. Perfect length. With a structure here again.
And a cheeky little nod to Star Trek fans.
We'll get to that. There was. You can perhaps talk a little bit more about those
Something
nods.
that will delight them. Any Star Trek fans watching this episode would have been thrilled.
I really enjoyed the dynamic between Falk and Shatner in this episode. I thought it was really charming, actually.
It was great. I have no concerns about that whatsoever. I thought it worked very well.
This is an example of how the stars can enjoy the episode, have some fun, but not overdo it or not go outside the sort of acceptable parameters that they did last week, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I think William Shatner gets criticised sometimes for hamming it up a bit, but this episode did a great job of showing an awareness of that. Yeah. He was hamming it up at times, but it was in a self-aware way, and I think that's a nuance that was clearly shown and was very clever, and I thought it showed him up well as an actor.
I'm a big fan of William Shatner. Now, that may seem strange because, as you know, I am not a Star Trek fan. It's not that I have anything against it. I've just never watched it. But I was a big fan of T.J. Hooker.
Yeah.
And I've actually listened and read to a few of Shatner's autobiographies. And he is really I think he's just fascinating.
And still active and vital as ever. Yeah.
Great guy. I think it's a good time to move on to the rest of the podcast.
Sure.
How do we normally do that?
Well, if we're going to stick to formula, as we ought to do,
we should
commence with my summary.
Let's hear it.
In Fade into Murder, we meet Ward Fowler, an actor famed for his role as Lieutenant Lucerne, television's most famous detective. Fowler is being blackmailed by Claire Daly, his former lover and producer on his show. Unwilling to put up with this any longer, he stages a robbery and kills her. Slipping in and out of his alter ego, Fowler looks to assist Columbo in his investigations, theorising about even his own culpability. With another compelling suspect in the frame, can Lucerne help Columbo catch a killer? Or will it take a one-man show to get the job done?
Thank you for that, Ian. We start with a view of a man hamming up a Poirot-style drawing room performance, wearing a very sort of flamboyant outfit and attire.
Yes, I like this scene very much because I think it was maybe a little nod to people who hated the previous episode.
You think?
Because in comes Swanee, and he's immediately making a mess of things and is fired from the show altogether.
Yeah. Mentioned last week, this is Fred Draper's final performance. A very small one after playing a more prominent role in The Last
Redeemed
Salute.
himself, you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really blame him for last week, and it's good that he didn't leave on that note. So it's good to see him one last time, Fred Draper.
There you go.
The man who we see acting in the Agatha Christie style is, as you mentioned in your summary, he's referred to as the greatest detective of their time. It's Lieutenant Lucerne.
Yes. I think, no, or is it Detective Lucerne, Lieutenant Lucerne? I'm not sure, I can't remember if it's maybe both.
Both. Well, the Lieutenant is a detective.
Sure.
And at this point in the show, we don't know that he is an actor.
Not instantly, but very quickly.
Yeah. And he's played by Ward Fowler.
Yes, who himself is played by William Shatner.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Inception.
Yes. And as you mentioned, Draper, who plays an actor called Joseph, I think, he fluffs one of his lines and the camera stops rolling. And we get a little insight into Fowler's attitude because he's somewhat pleasant with him, doesn't chastise him personally, but turns round and immediately requests or demands that he is replaced.
Yes.
So he's not the nicest stuff.
Well, as an extra, he presumably got his day rate anyway, so...
That he wouldn't be an extra.
You don't think so?
No, speaking part, fairly substantial.
Well, in that case, it could cost him some money. Depends if there's contracts in place.
Yeah, I'm assuming there would be. Or maybe not. Actually, it may well be a case that he has been signed up.
Depends if it's a union production or not.
If you don't want to use me, I'm still taking my wage.
Mm-hmm.
You can replace me and get someone else.
Pay an extra actor, yeah. Mm-hmm. He might not lose out at all.
Yeah. We move from the TV set to a cafeteria or a restaurant.
Yeah, this is very meta. We talked about a one line that was meta last week. There's an entire scene here that's entirely meta.
Well, there's more than one scene in this episode. It's a lot of sort of self-referential dialogue, and for some reason, unlike last week, and we won't keep going on about last week, but this is done lovely. It's you know, it's not.
It does seem you could interpret it as critical of Falk.
Yeah, I think they're having a go at Falk, but obviously in a decent.
Well, they're giving him plenty of money to assuage his hurt feelings.
Yeah, I get the feeling, Pierre Falk saying, "Yeah, that's fine. Just you keep the cash coming in. I'll have a joke and a laugh." He's not taking it personally, but yeah, he must be happy enough with it.
Yeah, he's seen off Blinsky. he's got the show to himself.
Yeah. So what happens here is we find Claire Daly, and she, along with her husband Sid Daly, are the producers of this Lieutenant Lucerne TV detective show.
They're on the production team. I think there's a couple other folk in the meeting as well, isn't there?
No, there are other people, but they are the producers. So think Lincoln Levinson, and they are meeting with the studio
to get finance sorted out.
Yes.
Okay.
I think it's best summed up by a clip that we have here.
Now, gentlemen, may we continue?
Who does Ward Fowler think he is?
Now look, Claire. As representative of this studio, I will not stand for this precedent. There is no actor in the business who is irreplaceable.
Claire, Ward Fowler is not the first actor on this network to win an Emmy. And he's already one of the highest paid performers in television. If we give in to him now...
Now say you don't give in to him. He walks. Then what are you going to do? Without Ward Fowler, there isn't going to be any next year for this show. And because of Ward Fowler, Detective Lucerne has the highest rating in television. Sid and I have given you a show that has been a winner year in and year out. But Ward Fowler is the show.
It's a little known fact that if you take out the words Ward Fowler and put in Peter Falk, that's an actual transcript of the NBC meeting.
Pretty much so, I would have thought. Like I say, it's great that they can have that.
Well, it's either great or a little bit sad that they have to take this jibe.
Yeah, I think everyone's having fun. Everyone's a winner.
Let's hope everyone's having fun anyway. Claire moves back to the lot after this meeting, clearly, and meets with Fowler.
Who's in his dressing gown.
Oh, he's very much the star.
Yes. she's telling him to be happy.
Well, it's a bit of a power struggle, and she doesn't concede to him. He tries to, persuade her of a certain order of things, and she's not having it. But it becomes clear that, in fact, it's the other way around. She's always been the one with the upper hand in this relationship.
Yes, they used to be lovers. That's no longer the case. And she has effectively invented him as this TV star.
Yeah.
She's dragged him from the gutter, and what is it? She talks about having his teeth fixed and his hair combed properly and presented as you'd imagine a TV star to be.
She certainly seems to have put in a bit of effort.
Mm-hmm.
And she is benefiting.
He accepts this eventually, and he tries to sort of schmooze and charm her, but she's having none of it.
Yeah, no, she's not interested.
She obviously has something over him.
It's not clear at this stage.
Not
but
immediately.
We find out later on that she knows his true past,
Yeah.
essentially.
And we find out that she, at this point in time, is taking 50% of his earnings.
Yeah, and just from that, it must be a massive secret. And that's 5 times as much. No, that's the same amount as Santini was giving up to Jerome in Now You See Him last season. And he had the secret of being a Nazi war criminal, so Ward must have an equivalent level of secret.
Yeah. They both accept that this blackmail is taking place. We've got another clip here.
Now, Ward, you just keep remembering that I invented you, all of you. And I only take half for my trouble. Just half, off the top. Buy the silver, the usual way.
You're quite the little dictator. And now you sound like that show we did last August. The one where we tried to make the murderer sympathetic?
Oh, yes, that was because the blackmailer was so dictatorial and vicious. Well, I wouldn't dwell on it if I were you. You wouldn't make a murderer. Not even a sympathetic one. That much personality you don't have.
There was a reference there to In Silver, the Usual Way.
It's silver certificates.
Some kind of bond type investment, I believe.
Yes. It's an unusual means of payment, but I think...
She's hiding it from her husband.
And also from the IRS.
Probably, yeah.
So she's not declaring this. If he transfers money into her bank account, then it becomes more obvious to the authorities.
Well, that's it. So she needs to kind of keep the trail distinct at that point.
Claire Daly was played by Lola Albright. She was born in 1925. And she is known for performances in movies such as Champion, Kid Galahad, TV shows such as Airwolf, Quincy, Kojak, The Man from U.N.C.L.E. and Peyton Place. The odd thing was that she stopped working in 1984 after an episode of Airwolf and done nothing else until 2013, where she had a small role in a TV show called The 3 Bits.
Was she raising children?
I wouldn't have thought so. She was born in 1925, so by 84, I don't think she was stopping
Probably
to...
maybe grandchildren, I don't know.
Yeah,
It
just
seems unlikely. It's also
maybe she come back out of retirement as a favour to
particular
someone.
part or something.
Yeah, well, it's a very small part, so maybe
well, that makes more sense then. She's obviously just retired at that point, and then
someone's asked her.
she's come out for a particular reason.
Mm-hmm. We head next to the trailer of...
Well, yeah, she's taken this call in Ward's caravan right at the end of that last scene, and that's going to be important.
Yeah, in this call she discusses with the person that she's talking to about stopping for some food.
Yeah, so that's critical information, but we don't know yet if she's been heard or not.
And then Claire confides with Fowler that she knows that her husband Sid is having an affair. Now, I think that's quite important as well, because what happens is Fowler tries to implicate the husband as a potential killer, and this would be a
and it also shows to an extent that she either trusts him or believes that her hold over him is such that she doesn't need to worry about things he might say.
Yeah, I mean, she comes across as very cold and unconcerned. It's all about the money with her, isn't it?
Yeah, there's no emotional side to this.
It's now night time, and we see Fowler break into the wardrobe department of the studio.
Yeah, it's not immediately apparent it's Fowler, but you see it fairly quickly that it's him.
So is he also, like the great Santini, a master lockpick? He's an actor. How would he know how
only
to...
a master locksmith could could do this.
Yeah, so I thought that was a bit, where did they get these skills from? But he steals a balaclava and a jacket before then breaking into the gun room and stealing a revolver.
He does.
We head to Fowler's home.
Yeah, he's not gone straight out to kill anybody. He's headed home to watch some baseball with his pal.
Yep, to set up his alibi.
That's it.
So, his friend Mark, who is also his gopher.
Yes.
Basically some sort of PA type person.
That's exactly right.
So he's invited Mark round to watch a game of baseball.
Yes, his teetotal friend Mark.
Yep, sober for 8 months.
He's obviously working hard at this. It's
Very
difficult
impressive, and he's got by that initial period where it's hard, but 8 months sober. Okay?
Every day he's recovering.
Yes. But Fowler immediately gives him a drink.
Even after whiskey or something.
Yeah, even after Mark says, look, I've not been drinking for 8 months. So I'm loath to pick any holes in this episode because I do enjoy it, but I think this is one of the few things it's worth discussing. Fowler's entire plan seems to be reliant on the assumption that his sober, and we assume perhaps ex-alcoholic friend is quite happily going to accept a drink without any prompting or persuasion.
So, I mean, you might sympathetically believe that Fowler's seen this before. He's maybe been tried to get sober in the past and been susceptible to persuasion.
Sure. That might work, but if you're planning a murder, you don't want to... I really would not want to be relying on a friend who doesn't drink anymore accepting my drink, because if he doesn't take the alcohol, you can't slip a Mickey Finn into a tea or a coffee or a soft drink, because there's no reason for him to pass out.
But you could do that and then leave an empty whiskey glass next to him, and he might just believe he's had the drink even if he hasn't.
I'm not giving you that, sorry.
You might.
No chance.
You might try it. I'm not saying it would come away, but...
Oh, that's not a plan.
You don't think so? You don't think alcoholics who get drunk forget that they had a drink?
Yeah, I don't think you forget that you had...
You don't think memory loss is a thing that happens?
Oh, it does happen, but I don't think that's... Nope, you're not having that one. So yeah, I think that's it's a fairly chancy element to this overall plot, which is decent, I have to say. The rest of it's fine. I really like it, quite ingenious.
Yep. He makes a wager on the baseball game whether this schmuck Eberle's going to get a hit. He's obviously struggled in his recent at-bats and he's not fancied, but Fowler thinks he's going to hit the ball. So
they accept this wager, and as Mark finishes his drink, he becomes woozy and passes out.
Yeah, the at-bat's not even finished, so it's only less than a minute.
Don't know what that means.
The same guy's still hitting.
Ah, okay. The Atbat.
He's not either hit the ball or been got out.
Okay. So, anyway, this guy, Mark, crashes out.
Yeah, and we move on to Fowler in a big, bulky, sort of blue jacket.
No, before that, we see Fowler start to record
this
on the baseball
television.
game.
Yes, he does.
Yeah. This plot device, or this how he's setting this up, might seem rather obvious and easily resolved today.
Yeah.
But back then, the concept of VCRs and people having it...
Yes, it's future tech.
It's future tech, so you wouldn't immediately think, he's probably recorded something. So I think we give him a pass on that. So he starts recording the game, and then, as you say, we see him outside the deli where Claire is going to buy a sandwich.
Or where she said she's going to buy a sandwich.
Mm-hmm. He's wearing a balaclava and this sort of blue down-style jacket.
It's actually quite a stylish sort of bonfire night outfit.
Mm-hmm. Looks like a ski jacket, isn't it?
Yeah.
We see Claire go into the deli. Now, this is another slight chancy element.
What's she changed her mind?
What's she changed her mind? In fact, I did this today. I was meant to be going somewhere else for my dinner, changed my mind, picked up a stinking greasy burger.
Not good for you.
Not good for me at all. But I was busy, other things to do, and I changed my mind, and that happens fairly frequently, I would have thought. This wasn't a dinner date. This was her saying, I'll stop off and
buy a sandwich.
She might have fancied stopping off at another restaurant or another sandwich shop, another deli.
Yeah, well, I didn't have my dinner tonight at the place that I said I was going to have it either.
Yeah. So he was relying on a couple of things that are...
She might be a creature of habit, though. She seems to know the sandwich shop owner, so it could be that is just where she goes.
Yeah, sure. That's a fair point. So she goes in and she chats away to the owner, Tony.
Yeah, we've seen him before.
Yeah. Tony was Timothy Carey. This is his last of 3 appearances in Columbo.
The previous 2 were both as Bert.
Yes, in Deadweight and Ransom for a Dead Man.
Yes.
Did you enjoy, or did you like his floral purple shirt he was wearing?
Stylish.
At the time.
Still.
In your wardrobe.
Mm-hmm. Wearing one right now.
The other thing that I suppose is slightly chancy is that he was relying again on the fact that it would only be Tony and her in the deli.
Well, he wasn't relying, he was observing that, so he had the chance to pull out, so it's not like he was committed to doing this.
No, but other people could have come in after
after
he had committed to doing it.
He could have, or maybe he locked the door when he came in, but they still would have seen him.
Yeah. So, yeah, I wouldn't have liked to put myself in that position, to be honest.
Chancy.
Very chancy. So, he comes in.
He's essentially staging an armed robbery. He takes the money out of Claire's purse, he's using a fake voice. He takes the money out the till. He knocks out Tony quite violently.
It's a pistol whipping. It's not one blow to the head, it's several.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then he reveals to Claire who he is.
Yes. And what does he tell her to do?
Just put her hands up and stop.
Put her hands up.
Essentially. She's not having it. She doesn't believe he'll kill her.
She tries to call his bluff.
Yeah.
She tells him, I'm going to put my hands down and I'm going to walk away. You're not a murderer. You won't do this. And what does he do?
He shoots her.
He does murder her. He does do it.
Before she even puts her hands down.
Yep. We see her shocked face as she falls.
No, she would be shocked. She didn't think he was going to kill her.
That's true.
She's just been shot in the heart.
Shocking.
I would find that shocking, but it happened to me. He heads home, destroying the jacket and balaclava on the way.
That I didn't really understand. Why destroy it? And also, why sort of ripping it a little bit with a knife? What does that hide from cops? What are you thinking will happen there?
Exactly, especially if they can be traced back to where they came from.
Yeah. It's not like, okay, so you rip it in half, a jacket, or you rip the balaclava a little bit. It's not, that doesn't conceal any vital evidence.
No.
So, in fact, what I thought at the time was, as soon as he ripped the jacket, there was feathers everywhere.
I thought you'd get them on him.
Yeah.
But I've had that in Troubled Waters already.
Yes. But anyway, no, that he rips the clothes up, dumps them in a trash can, heads home, and he hides the gun where?
In a tree type thing in his house.
Yeah, in his garden. Now, it looked to me like this was a sort of specially custom made cubbyhole in a tree. I'm not sure if it was just the way the bark had broken.
It could just be the way they had to set it up so that the gun would stay there when they were filming.
Yeah, possibly. But he hides this gun, he enters his house, and then what he does is he turns Mark's watch backwards around about an hour and a half.
Yeah, but crucially forgets to check what time it is on the watch first.
That's true. And then he changes the digital clock beside his television.
Yeah, and then he rewinds the baseball.
Mm-hmm. And he stirs Mark, he wakes him up.
Yeah, acts as if he's only been passed out for a few seconds.
Tells him he's missing some of the game here. And I think he claims his wager. Someone does something or other.
Yeah, Ward wins the bet, the guy gets the hit. So he won the bet, and then he puts Mark up to bed.
Yes.
He passes out again. And
it looks like a spare room which had a very large portrait of Fowler on the wall.
I've seen this before.
Yeah. It's a great picture. I'd like to buy that picture myself. And Mark falls asleep again.
So he resets the watch back to the correct time, but crucially, not the time it was originally set at.
We go back to the deli. And
it's now a crime scene.
It's a crime scene, and it's Columbo's introduction.
Yes, and it is a homicide, we think, so...
And Columbo is far more subdued and professional than he was last week.
Yeah, he's also more engaged with the investigation.
Yes, he's listening, he's asking questions, he's looking at the body. He's getting involved, he's doing what he should be doing, he's doing what Columbo is great at doing.
But critically here, we mentioned earlier, for Star Trek fans, he gets a rundown of the scene from...
You tell me.
It's Walter Koenig. Koenig, however you want to pronounce it.
I've heard of him, but I've heard of the character. Was it
Chekhov?
Chekhov, that's the one, yeah. I sort of heard.
He's one of the principal cast of the original series of Star Trek, yeah.
What does he do? What's his role?
He was on the con.
The what?
Basically, he and Sulu were the two guys that sat down in the front.
Okay.
In the bridge scene.
What was his skill set? Was he an engineer? Was he a pilot?
He was a yellow-shirted fellow, so that's kind of communications.
Communications.
Science was blue and engineering was red, so yellow was basically not those things.
Yeah. A jack of all trades.
Yeah. By the time you get to Next Generation, yellow's become engineering, but
Okay.
not in the original series.
Interestingly, and when Columbo arrives, he shouts out and he calls him, I think, Monroe. But
Yes.
the credits in IMDb list him as Sergeant Johnson.
Could be that Monroe's his first name.
Could be, but then where is IMDb getting Johnson from? Because he wasn't called Johnson anywhere.
Well, someone submitted IMDb. It's edited by people, isn't it?
Not really.
It's not like someone sits and watches Columbo and then
Yeah,
writes
but
it all
it's
down.
not like Wikipedia. It's not just open for anyone to go in and change characters' names.
Maybe it's been on like a Koenig bio somewhere, or like on his official site or something like that. Maybe listed in that, and they've just assumed it's correct.
Yeah. Anyway, Columbo, did you notice, is back on the cigars?
Oh yeah, the same as at the start of season 2.
Yeah.
After he threatened to quit in Blueprint for
Yes.
Murder, he was back on them in Etude.
So Monroe tells Columbo who the victim is, that she's a producer of the Lucerne show, and Columbo, getting back to the tropes that we enjoy.
Yes,
Him-
but not in an exaggerated and
Nope.
stupid way.
Him and his wife are big fans of the Lucerne show. They never miss it.
Of course.
Now, Tony tells Columbo that the killer was, I like this, was about Columbo's height.
That's critical information.
Yeah, he says, so Columbo says, well, about average. And Tony says, well, yeah, or a little shorter than average. And you can see there's a cop in the background smiling and laughing as at this exchange. And I think Columbo is smiling as well. He's taking it in a good spirit.
He's maybe said about average as a sort of a tease himself.
Yeah. I mean, there are a number of instances in this episode where it's proper use of subtle comedy in a Columbo episode. It's not being exaggerated or overdone. It's just nice.
It's not got a big blue arrow pointing at it and flashing.
No, it's just
this is a joke.
Yeah, it's just lovely. It's nice.
He's intrigued by something about the body.
Okay, tell me.
He goes over and examines the top she's wearing.
Yes, we don't find out just now what it is, but he looks at the bullet hole.
It's interesting because it's a piece of information that was critical in the investigation into the JFK assassination.
Yeah.
It's the same sort of thing. It's to do with bullet holes entering clothes and where they match up with wounds on the body and stuff like that.
Sure. So we head to the TV set, and Columbo, as he's done on a number of different occasions, disrupts the filming by walking by on the set as...
This is brilliant. He just walks past a window in the background
twice, and then knocks over some stands and
stuff,
things like that. That is good. So he IDs himself after the director calls the action to a halt, and Columbo IDs himself to Fowler.
Yeah, Columbo is at it here, but Fowler is onto him right from the start.
Yes. Well,
So
Fowler,
it's almost like a game between them.
it's a game, and I love Fowler's insight, his understanding of psychology. That's actually very smart.
Yeah.
Because we've seen a lot supposedly smarter people and smarter, more conceited killers fall for Columbo's act.
But as a actor playing a detective, he has been trained in how this sort of thought process works, maybe.
Yeah. So
I mean, I take it that Lucerne is essentially the Columbo of the Columbo universe.
No. I think he is the Poirot of the Columbo universe. I don't think it's a Columbo character he's playing. I think he's meant to be far. I don't think he's playing a bumbling.
Okay, yeah. I don't mean like in the specific character type. I just mean in that
he's the
he is
greatest.
the best detective.
Yes.
And he's a good detective in that sense.
Yes, he solves every case. In fact, Columbo mentions that, doesn't he? He says, it's no wonder that you solve more cases than me.
Yeah.
I'll mention that when we get to it.
Spoilers. Yeah, no, Columbo acts like he's looking for Sid Daly, but he's not really. He wants to talk to Fowler. Starts hamming it up, talking about Claire, and Columbo looks distinctly unimpressed.
Yes.
But Mark comes over, confirms Fowler's alibi. Fowler
he asks
all sorts of deranged questions.
It's fantastic. But Fowler asks what time exactly it happened, so that he could then say, "Oh, where was I when she was dying? Oh, I was probably alone," and just so that Mark can say, "No, you weren't alone. You were with me. Remember watching the game."
This is because Fowler has twigged that Columbo's at it, and he's sending him up essentially, which is an entirely inappropriate time to do that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I think what he's trying to do here is say to Columbo, "Stop playing games."
Yes, but he's playing obviously the game himself, and he
to expose the game.
Yes, he rants at Mark and dismisses him, and Columbo says that he was only, his friend was only trying to be nice and help, and Fowler says no, he was trying to provide me with an alibi. Now, this is quite risky in that you're immediately getting, unless you know that the person is already thinking this, you're planting these little seeds. It's a very risky strategy.
I think he does already know this.
Yeah.
I think he knows that Columbo wasn't looking for Sid, he wanted to talk to him. And he knows that he was one of only a few number of people who knew where Claire was going to be. I think he's known in advance probably that this was what was going to happen. He was going to get investigated. So he is playing a role here. And the point of this exchange is for him to undermine Columbo's strategy.
Sure. He then gets Columbo to admit that he thinks the killing was premeditated. And we have a great little interaction, as we've hinted at, as Fowler describes Columbo's MO.
Yeah.
Columbo then explains why he thinks that it was in fact a murder, and he offers up some evidence. But Fowler provides an explanation to this supposed evidence. We have a clip.
Okay.
Oh, there was an alligator bag, a diamond ring.
I doubt very much if a robber in a hurry on the edge of panic is going to take the time to pull the ring off of Claire's finger.
You mean, sir, you mean if she was dead, he couldn't get it off?
Well, she is, I believe, isn't she?
Well, yes, sir, but he could have asked her for it first, before he shot her.
I remember Claire trying to get that ring off at a party. Some silly game people were playing. And she couldn't, not even with soap. And you can check that out with her husband. He was the one that asked her to take it off. He was on the other team.
Boy, when you say you studied, you aren't kidding, are you, sir? Well, then what about the alligator bag?
An alligator bag that is 6 years old is apt to be worn looking. It doesn't look like it's worth very much. Probably isn't.
How do you happen to know all that much about her bag, sir?
I gave it to her.
Well, that takes care of that, doesn't it? Right. Well, I guess then, there's only the credit card, sir.
If the killer is an idiot.
I beg your pardon, sir. I don't quite follow your meaning there.
Well, you don't kill a woman and then sell the credit cards with her name on them. Police have been known to bribe fences before, you know.
Well, of course. I'm sorry, sir. I should have thought of that myself. Jeez, I guess you're right, aren't you? Not a lot to go on, is there?
Cup of coffee?
Sid shows up after this.
He does,
Pretty much straight away.
Well, there's one quick exchange before. Columbo is still okay, so Fowler has offered those explanations that we heard there, but Columbo is unconvinced that a man in a panic could shoot someone who was running at a distance of around 30 feet through the heart.
Yeah.
So he has an issue with this shot.
Seems too accurate.
Mm-hmm. And then, as you say, Sid appears. Did it not seem to you strange that the day after this woman had been murdered, the producer of the show, an ex-lover, the supposed
filming.
friend, and the husband, even if you're estranged, they're just going about their normal work?
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't look, the note I've got is he doesn't look too upset.
Yeah, and it's fine that if you're, let's say, you might not even be friends with the person.
You'd still be shocked, or...
If someone in our office was murdered, or anyone's office, that you weren't friends with, that you knew even as a colleague...
Yeah.
I don't think...
You'd want a day off.
Yeah, people would be, pretty...
You'd at least pretend you were upset to get the day off.
Would you?
I wouldn't. Obviously, I would always show up.
Yeah.
Sid's only query is why Columbo spoke to Fowler first.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Yeah, but Columbo points out that he tried to speak to Sid and wasn't able to.
And he has an explanation as to where he was.
Well, he says he was with his lawyer. It's a lie.
Playing chess all night.
And then he goes back to work. He's over it. He's moving on.
Not before Fowler catches a button on Sid's...
Well, this is a sneaky little bit here. Yes, I didn't even take a note at the time because I thought, what's this nonsense?
Yeah.
But what Fowler does here is he uses a button to catch a thread on Sid's jacket to acquire the thread.
Do you think that was intentional, or do you think he caught it and then had the idea after that?
It must be the second one. And even then, to go on ahead and use it when Columbo stood there watching it happen was stupid.
Yeah, I thought that myself. If you're going to set someone up in the fashion that he does, then don't do it in front of the investigating cop.
Yeah. That's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. Columbo then speaks to Mark.
Yes, he appears and they head outside.
He gets a critical bit of information here.
Which is?
that Mark's watch, he's annoyed at his watch, it's lost 5 minutes overnight.
And it's very expensive.
Yeah, he always has it 5 minutes fast so he's not late for things.
Yep.
But it's now at the normal time.
And it's a £1,000 watch, which does not lose 5 minutes overnight. If it did, you'd be taking that back to the shop, wouldn't you?
Exactly. So Columbo's interest is piqued, I would say.
It is. Before we move on, Sid Daly.
Sidney
Daly. He was played by Alan Manson. He died in 2002, aged 83. He was in films such as The Doors, The Devil's Advocate, The Rockford Files, Quincy, and Kojak.
There you go.
We head to the Universal Studios lot.
Yeah, the shark from Jaws shows up making a cameo. Do you know who played the shark in Jaws?
Yes. It was the same actor that was in the James Bond with the big teeth.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Was it Richard Keel?
Yeah, that sounds familiar, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, he was Jaws.
He played the shark. Well, that's something. I didn't know that, so that's a bit of trivia for me.
You know I'm joking.
Who knows you're joking?
You do.
Oh. About what?
Let's move on. So,
Columbo asks Sid about Claire's fidelity.
yes. And what does he say to that?
She didn't have time for men, she only was interested in working.
Yes. Their marriage and effectively, even their business partnership was a bit of a sham, or certainly one-sided. She did what she pleased.
Yeah.
One little thing that I noted, he's very busy. And as we said, this is the day after his wife's been murdered. And Columbo comes over and he says that he can give him 2 minutes. The homicide cop investigating your wife's death.
I know.
The next day, and you think, yeah, I'm a busy guy, I'll give you 2 minutes.
It's a very strange set of circumstances.
Yeah.
It's certainly a strange way for him to act, I think.
Mm-hmm. Now, he also admits that he believed that paying an actor the kind of money that she negotiated for Fowler was insanity. So that's another little nod towards Peter Falk.
It also shows that he didn't know that she was skimming.
Yeah, because obviously she was on a percentage, so it's in her best interest.
Yeah, the higher, the more she gets.
Mm-hmm. Now, Columbo is confused. Why would Claire want to give Fowler more money? That's his... He doesn't understand what we know at this point.
Yeah.
And Sid admits that she always took Fowler's side. She had an ego and she created Fowler.
Yeah, the exact quote was, in anything involving Ward, she always took his side.
Yes. She became a mother to him rather than a lover.
Yeah, well, we find out here that her romance with Ward was before she met Sid. She wasn't cheating on Sid with Ward. It was sometime previous. And Sid reckons it's her ego.
Mm-hmm.
But he's wrong.
Yes. We go to the set. Columbo and Fowler address each other by their...
These scenes are a treat.
Cop titles.
Yes.
And it looks like they're working together.
They're investigating this crime.
Yes. Fowler tells Columbo that Claire was a natural-born victim, which is a bit off, really, wasn't it? And he admits that he lied to Columbo previously. He didn't really like...
Yeah, we talked about this at the time. He was hamming it up.
Yeah. And Columbo admits that he had heard this was the case.
Yeah. And Fowler says he hadn't liked Claire for years, and they get into a conversation about the odds of that shot hitting the victim in the heart.
Yeah, and he seems to have these odds and already worked out, sort of 28%. Where did they get 28% from?
I don't know, unless he tried it 100 times.
Yeah. But it's great, he was so bold, he's so authoritative.
They might not be accurate statistics, it could just be he's just coming up with them.
That's what I'm saying, yeah. He's talking with authority and
I read on the internet that 73% of statistics are made up.
That's 100% accurate.
112%, I heard.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, yeah, they have this chat about the chances of being shot through the heart. And I think what he says is that, it's you're aiming at the upper half of the body.
Yeah.
So in terms of increasing the chances, the odds of this shot being accurate, what if it was just a robbery, but the person committing it had experience with guns and shooting? An ex-cop, someone from the army, or just a sort of gun nut type person. That would drastically increase the chances of this shot. And if it was one of these type of people, they may have been trained to not panic in this type of situation. They're used to trying to hit moving targets.
Yeah, so they're discussing this in the context of a victim that was running, but Columbo doesn't believe that was the case.
No, but before he corrects him, what he says is that he thinks it's brilliant. He thinks this insight from from Fowler, who's put a lot of work and effort into trying to convince Columbo. He says it's brilliant, and he says, no wonder that you solve more crimes than I do. Now, I mentioned this earlier, does this mean either he's just lying to massage his ego, or does this mean that we only see some of the crimes that Columbo is successful with, and there are these other cases?
I think both things are true.
You think? Okay.
I think it's like, I think Patrick Stewart said this on the Infinite Monkey Cage podcast last year. You know, every episode of Star Trek The Next Generation, they go to a planet with aliens, but they went to lots of planets with no aliens, they just didn't film those episodes.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's the same thing with Columbo. The crimes that weren't interesting, they didn't put them on the telly.
Yeah. After massaging his ego here, he does an about turn, and he sort of explains why he still has issues, and this might not be a great explanation, which is
Columbo's known all along it wasn't a great explanation, but he's allowed Fowler to go through his little act.
Yeah.
And like I said earlier, it's the JFK thing, the way that the hole in her top matches up with the wound on her body suggests her hands must have been raised, which implies she was not running, because you would look kind of weird running with your hands up.
Yeah.
And if you were going to run, why would you keep your hands up?
Precisely.
So he's not happy with that. And
no, he tries to hide his anger. You can tell he's seething.
yes, the note I've got, Ward acts impressed.
Yes. But he's sort of deflated, and he grudgingly tells Columbo, well done. But I think this is the point in the episode where both parties understand the score, the situation.
Yeah. Well, I think Fowler and Columbo both knew from the start. I think they've both been playing a game.
I think they both...
I don't think Columbo knew he did it, but I think he knew he was investigating him, and I think
Yes.
Fowler knew he was being investigated from the start.
Yes.
But I think it gets a bit more serious from this point on. But the scenes between them are great.
That's fantastic. And we have another scene. We go to Fowler's home. Columbo shows him a police sketch of the chap in the balaclava, which is useless, as you would expect.
Yes.
It's not helpful.
It's just an excuse for Columbo to visit.
Yes, and we have some further nice comedy relief as he's trying to leave and he's messing about with the door.
You can't work the lock.
He can't work it. He's trying all these different combinations, and it's brilliant watching him because it's not a separate element. You know, they've not thrown this in. He's still chatting away. He's still going through the procedure. It's just an extra that augments the performance.
Visual comedy, yeah.
Yeah. That door, I cannot remember for the life of me. We've seen that door before, I think, and I asked a listener. It was a listener's question. I asked anyone if they could remember if it was the same. It looks like the same set, the same door.
It looked to me like the one from the George Hamilton episode.
It might have been that. I can't remember, but I do remember asking the listeners.
Deadly State of Mind, or is that the one? Is that the name of it?
Yeah, but I'm not sure if it was. It might have been that episode, but I remember mentioning a familiar looking door. Anyway.
If anyone remembers, let us know.
Mm-hmm. So eventually Fowler comes over, shows him how to exit the door.
But there's still more conversation to be had.
Yes, it's a one more thing. He leaves, and it's an almost one more thing.
Yeah, Fowler actually asks where Columbo thinks the costume came from.
Yes.
Did I mention the mask?
That it was slashed?
No, that it had makeup on it. The lab turned it up, sir. Where would he find the mask that had makeup on it?
That's a very good question. I believe you know the answer.
I believe I do, sir. We could be looking for a woman.
Precisely. We've assumed all along it was a man, but it's possible we were wrong, particularly in the light of this.
Oh, I'm relieved to hear you say that, sir. I thought you were going to say it was impossible because of Tony. Tony, he's the owner of the delicatessen, saying that the voice was a man's. But the below average height and the fact that the voice was disguised and it was muffled by the mask
all indicate at least the possibility of a doubt as to the gender.
The lab is going to be running some more tests on that makeup, so I'll report tomorrow. You should be on salary, sir, with these hours.
You know, I feel I am. Good working with you.
Just ahead of that conversation, they discussed the jacket that had been found cut to ribbons, and they agreed that had probably been done in case the outfit was recognised.
Doesn't really...
I'm not sure Columbo was actually agreeing. I think he was just making the point.
Yeah.
And Columbo then leaves after this exchange, and Fowler follows him shortly thereafter and retrieves the gun from the tree, plants it back where it came from with the thread from Sid's coat on it, which we agree is a critical error.
Yes. We see him as he's doing this, he's wearing latex gloves, so he's trying to obviously conceal his fingerprints.
But he hasn't been doing that up until now.
I love this next scene.
It's one of these sort of Columbo silent but visual comedy moments that we enjoy.
Describe it.
Columbo arrives on the lot. He visits Fowler's caravan and hums This Old Man.
Yep.
Which is popular with the viewers. He spots built-up heels, essentially platform shoes, in Fowler's caravan and tries on a hat and the shoes, and Fowler returns.
Can you imagine walking into a room and seeing a guy wearing your shoes and your hat?
It would be unusual.
It's fantastic.
But they have a laugh about it.
Columbo looks very suitably embarrassed.
Yes, as he should be.
He should be. I'm just glad the killer wasn't female. That could have been more embarrassing.
That would have been. They have a laugh about it anyway, but Fowler insists on discretion on the platform shoes. And we heard the clip at the top of the show.
Yes. Now, the reason that Columbo is here is to tell him that it probably wasn't a woman who was the killer, because the lab checked the makeup.
Stage makeup of 4 different shades.
Pancake, they call it.
Yeah. But I don't know why it couldn't have been a woman actor.
That's true.
But anyway, Columbo insists he wasn't checking what makeup Fowler had, but Fowler knows that he was. And they discuss the fact that he must be a suspect at this stage. They both openly accept that.
Yeah, because what's happened is Columbo's checked and the clothes came from the wardrobe department and the gun came from the prop department. And we have a lovely bit of sort of split personality acting here, where Lieutenant Lucerne admits that if it was him, he would think that Fowler is a reasonable suspect.
Yeah. You wonder what the purpose of Fowler doing this thing is, whether he has control over it. I think that's the big question.
That is a question, isn't it? Does he have some sort of
personality disorder
or not, perhaps? Now, Columbo asks Lucerne now how he came to the conclusion.
It's the way that Columbo just adroitly sort of switches whoever he's talking to. He's quite happy to address Lucerne as he is to address Fowler.
It's fantastic, and in the final scene it's brilliant as well, when Sid turns up and he talks about, Columbo mentions that he was talking to Lucerne, and Sid's like,
he's not real.
He's not real, we can't conduct the investigation into my wife's murder by
talking to fictional characters.
Yeah, I thought that was brilliant.
We'll come to that.
Yeah. So Columbo asks Lucerne how he came to the conclusion, and Fowler tells him that he was one of only 4 people who knew where Claire would be that evening. And he is the only person associated with wardrobe, props and makeup. And Columbo then asks Fowler how he knew where she would be that evening.
Yeah, they talk about the phone call.
Then how did you know, sir, that there were only 4 people who knew where Claire Daly was going to be that night, and how did you know that you were one of them?
The same way you did. I asked Claire's secretary, and she informed me that the call was made from my room.
You did, sir?
Oh, yes, I did, Lieutenant.
Oh, that's very good, sir.
Thank you, Lieutenant. I believe you meant that.
Oh, I did, sir.
I'd say we make a rather good team, don't you?
Yeah, sort of like Sherlock Holmes and Watson, sir.
No. More like Sherlock Holmes and Sherlock Holmes.
Well, what I mean, sir, is the way I see it, I'm working with the highest paid detective in the world.
It's not as high as it sounds. Not when you have to pay out as much as I do.
So Falk being jibed at a little bit more there by the scriptwriters.
It seems to be their little thing here. They're obviously a little bit bitter about his new contract.
Yeah.
Or at least they want to give him a wee dig in the ribs.
Mm-hmm. Fowler then asks if there was anything found on the gun, like fingerprints.
Well, yeah, Columbo, before he mentions fingerprints, thinks, oh, how would you possibly... Oh, it's like fingerprints.
Yeah.
Oh.
What else? He says.
Yeah. But again, I think they both know that wasn't what he was talking about at all.
And he is asked, or Fowler is asked, why he thinks the killer would replace the gun when he didn't replace the clothes.
Yeah.
And Fowler says that perhaps he didn't have time to dispose of it safely, and that the prop room might seem hidden in plain sight, perhaps was the best method.
Yeah. Before he leaves the caravan, Columbo goes back to being a fanboy and takes a biography of Fowler ostensibly for his wife.
But it's not.
It's not.
It's not. It's quite vital information he can get from this.
Well, he hopes he can, yeah.
Yeah. or lack of information, more to the point.
Indeed.
We head back to the TV set.
Yeah, we're in makeup.
Yes, as Fowler's getting his makeup done, Columbo asks about his background.
His original name, perhaps, or his origin.
So he's read this publicity bio he got in the last scene, and he realises there are large chunks of it from his earlier life missing. There's not, it's not greatly detailed.
Yeah, but he's content to explain that he was a Charles Kipling, and Claire found him doing theatre in Toronto.
Yeah, and he was involved in some dubious stuff. And there's a fantastic line in this scene.
Yeah.
Yep. Fowler says to Columbo, "Why don't we stop pretending that you are simple and I am brilliant for one moment?"
Yes, bit of insight.
Yes, which, as we've mentioned, very few Columbo killers actually have.
Yeah. He explains, though, also that he is sensitive about his background. He doesn't really want it discussed.
Yeah.
He's happy to tell Columbo as a policeman.
Well,
but he's not wanting to go into it.
Tell some of it, not
well,
all of it.
Well, yeah, but this second fiction, if we call it that.
I think his thinking is that if I tell... He's telling a lie to cover up another lie.
Yeah, but he must know it's going to get... In fact, he says later he knew it was going to get researched.
Sure.
Anyway, we move to Sid Daly's office.
Yes, and Columbo congratulates him on his windfall.
Well, before that, he doesn't really seem interested to me in this investigation.
No, he's working, he's on the phone, he sees Columbo enter and he's slightly dismissive of him.
He's genuinely not in any way perturbed by the fact A, his wife has died, and B, there's a murderer on the set.
Yeah, that's true. What happens in this scene?
Well, this is where we find out about what the blackmail has led to in more detail. She's got a massive stack of money and also IOUs from Fowler totaling $500,000.
Well, it's not money, it's silver certificates.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the IOUs.
Interestingly, stored in Canada.
Yes.
Where she found them.
Mm-hmm. These are things that Sid knew nothing about.
Yes.
And Columbo believes this.
Yeah, but Sid also has to confess that his alibi was a lie.
He wasn't playing chess with his lawyer.
He wasn't. Well, if playing chess is a euphemism and with his lawyer means with Molly, then yes, he was.
So he calls in Molly, who is his secretary.
Yes.
And she confirms that they were in fact together all night.
Yes, she looks like the sort who would get into that sort of thing.
Do you know who she is?
No, I've no idea.
Yeah, you do. So we're not going to get into too much detail about the actress who played Molly in this episode because
we'll come back to her.
It requires a little bit more discussion, I think, than what we would normally give. Everyone will know that she was played by Shira Danisi, who was in fact to become Peter Falk's wife. Not only his wife, but she co-starred with him in a total of 6 Columbo episodes, this being her first.
There you go.
So we'll chat more about Peter and Shera, perhaps in another, and perhaps even a special episode.
Not imminently, but yes.
No, not imminently.
Columbo anyway seems satisfied with the news story, so we go back to Fowler's home for what is essentially our final scene.
Yeah, it's our final scene, although it's quite a long scene and it's split into sort of 2 parts.
Yeah.
So Columbo and Fowler are having some great fun as Columbo acts out the Lucerne role as he is being recorded by Fowler, who then plays his performance back on the VCR.
It's a strange moment.
Yeah, but again, enjoy it. Don't have an issue with it.
Columbo is revelling and having a ball with this guy who he now knows is a murderer.
Yeah, I suppose when you look at it, when you see it like that. But it's thoroughly enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, it's great television. It's perhaps not the most professional of police work.
No. And he's told that the VCR, on its own, not including the camera, cost $3,000.
Which is, about 4 months of his salary?
A lot of money. And Columbo mentions that he could get a new car for that. Not that he needs one.
No, he doesn't need a new car. What's wrong with his car?
Nothing at all.
How dare you?
He then tells Fowler that he thinks that Sid has a fairly watertight alibi.
Yeah, and Fowler slips into Lucerne mode.
Yes.
And essentially says he thinks Fowler did it.
Yes. This is really... It is quite Norman Bates stuff here, isn't it?
I think this is essentially a confession.
Yeah.
But stylised.
Mm-hmm. Here's a thought. Perhaps he realises that the game is up, So he is laying the groundwork for some sort of insanity appeal?
I don't think so. I think it's a mutual thing between Columbo and Fowler about their awareness of investigations and how this sort of thing works.
Okay. But Columbo does not allow, or appears not to allow, or appears not to accept.
Well, he's playing devil's advocate for the arguments that are coming up. They talk about the IOUs, the $500,000, but then we get to...
Well, he says he can't find a motive for Fowler to do this.
He can't, but he wants to talk about his true identity.
Now, before we get to that, the IOUs may indicate blackmail, okay?
Yes, but then he gets Lucerne to ask Fowler, who says he wasn't being blackmailed.
Yeah. And as you say, we then start discussing his true background, which is...
His name is John Schnelling.
Mm-hmm.
He was a deserter in the Korean War.
An American deserter.
Bit like Don Draper from Mad Men.
Mm-hmm.
Not quite the same. But, yeah.
Who was also a crack shot.
Well, that's how the bullet would get through the heart from that range. But then we knew she wasn't running, so, that's not quite as critical a piece of information.
Mm-hmm. Columbo can't understand why Claire would attempt to destroy her source of income.
Yeah, but that really goes to the heart of what blackmail is.
Yes, and Fowler admits this. He says this. It's always the threat. You always have to, make this threat in order to squeeze out the cash.
Yeah.
And Lucerne, or Fowler, he plays this fantastically. He doesn't automatically agree and say, yeah, you've got a point there. He keeps up the pretense. Here's a clip.
Oh, yes, sir, it did occur to me, but there's something wrong with your thinking, if you forgive a criticism, sir. I look at it this way. If Ward Fowler's career was ruined, she wouldn't be able to blackmail him anymore, would she? He wouldn't have any more money. And on top of that, the show would fold. And it would be her show. Do you understand my point, sir? I mean, does an intelligent woman go and destroy her only means of income?
I don't know. Does she? It's what that character did in the show last August. It's the implicit threat of every blackmailer. Pay me or I'll ruin you.
Can I ask you a question, sir? Why don't we just ask Ward Fowler if he was being blackmailed or not?
And as we touched on before that clip, he says he wasn't.
True.
Because he doesn't want to incriminate himself.
And Columbo says that Fowler has apparently got an airtight alibi. After running through the different scenarios, they seem to agree that it looks more likely that Sid was in fact, or is in fact, the culprit.
Conveniently, Sid and Molly show up.
Yes.
And this is where Sid gets outraged at Columbo's decision to refer to Fowler as Lucerne.
Yeah. Just before, actually, Sid and Molly turn up, there's one more thing. As the door is being knocked, Columbo tells Fowler that they found a thread on the gun.
Right. We've kind of touched on this.
Yes, and Fowler advises that a search warrant for all four parties is required, and Columbo agrees that that's what he'll do, just as Sid and Molly arrive at the door.
And some police.
Which he still can't open.
Was Walter Koenig there in this scene?
Can't remember.
Because that would be the first time he and Shatner had appeared on the screen together since Star Trek.
Yeah, don't think he was. Can you remember?
That's a shame. Certainly this is the first TV show they both appeared in together.
Was it?
Since they were in Star Trek.
Okay.
And in fact, Koenig's bio shows he didn't act again until the first motion picture.
So the cops arrive with those two, and also they have Sid's sweater that was... The thread was hooked.
Yeah.
They have that in a bag. And Sid is... We mentioned this before. Sid is rightly exasperated that Columbo refers to Fowler as Lieutenant Lucerne.
He's furious.
But he starts to calm down as Columbo
unravels the story.
Mm-hmm.
He explains, this is the thread from that sweater, and Sid's getting a bit concerned. But then also he remembers seeing it getting hooked in Fowler's button. And then he says Fowler was brave to show him the video machine, but it undermines his alibi.
Yeah.
And talks about the mistake that he made with the watch.
Yes. He then supposes that Fowler planted the thread and that he could in fact have been guilty.
Well, Fowler then queries whether there's proof.
Yes. And he talks about how the alibi was set up. He talks about the watch and the videotape, etc. But he's still confident because he thinks this is all conjecture or supposition, circumstantial, etc. And he claims no proof, as you said. But Columbo says that he does have proof. And he produces the gun. And still, Fowler thinks...
There's no fingerprints on that.
We know there's no fingerprints here. He says it's pointless, because the gun's clean. But that is not the point that Columbo is making.
No.
And what is this point?
The bullets or blanks in the gun do have fingerprints on them.
Yes. So what's happened is he's taken the gun from the prop department. He has removed the blanks. He's put his own bullets in. He's then taken his own bullets out and put the blanks back in the gun.
Essentially.
And he's forgotten to wipe down the blank bullets.
That's it.
We've got a clip of his response when he understands what's happened.
Yeah, I mean, he likes to think of himself as sympathetic. Let's hear it.
I had to forget something. That's always how the third act ends. You see, I've had no rehearsal as a murderer. I'm, after all, a detective.
Yes, sir, but you did kill Claire Daly, didn't you, sir?
She was a blackmailer. And I killed her. And up to now, I'm glad I killed her. And I believe that in this killing, the murderer has the sympathetic part. Does that satisfy you?
Yes, sir, that satisfies me.
Lieutenant, you would do me an enormous favor if you stopped calling me sir.
Little woodwind finale there.
Yeah, nice. Appropriate.
Essentially, we go right the way back to the start of the episode when Fowler talked to Claire about a sympathetic killer. He
Yes.
wants to be seen here as a sympathetic killer. He was the one that was the victim, not the dead person.
We never condone killing or murder, but there are killers in the Columbo TV show which are more sympathetic than
Yes,
others.
I think this is one of them.
I do. He was a charming and pleasant killer.
Yeah, he had no intention to kill. I mean, he didn't go out to be a killer. He was forced into that situation.
And it's the greed of the blackmailer. I reckon if she had been asking for... Now, bearing in mind he's the highest paid actor on TV. So he's on with perhaps, $300,000 per episode?
Yeah.
If she'd asked for 10%, so $30,000, 3 times as much as Columbo's salary per episode.
Well, you say that, he might have been okay with that at first, but maybe in 10 years' time he wouldn't be okay anymore and he'd still kill her.
Yeah, but he's still got 10 years of living.
Yeah.
You know, you're trying to... she is killing the golden goose.
Well, this is it with blackmail, when you don't know how far you can push.
I always tend to not push it that far. I always ask for 10%.
Yeah. I haven't tried blackmail, but I'll bear that in
you
mind.
should give it a bash.
It was kind of an interesting gotcha, actually. I didn't like it initially, but when you think about it some more, it's quite a good one.
Yeah, it seems realistic. It's not. It's a type of he's had a decent plan.
Yeah,
but he's forgot one little. He admits that himself. He's forgot one thing.
My major concern is that there wasn't any indication of it before the finale.
Yeah,
you could have. It would have been good to see Columbo taking the bullets out.
Sure,
the gun or something at some stage.
Yeah, that would have been nice. But overall, I'm not going to complain too much about it.
For me, this is one of the best episodes there's been to this point.
Would you put this top 5, top 10?
I went through the other day my top episodes of top 7.
Really? Okay.
There are 7 episodes that I think stand out above the rest.
So it's not top 7 and top 8. If there's 7 above it, that means
no. There are 7, including this one, that stand out above
the rest. Okay, sure.
I don't know if I'll remember them if I try to name them again. But yeah,
they change all the time as well. Let's not start discussing top 10s and 7s just now, because I think perhaps that's something that down the line, perhaps we've seen more, perhaps even towards the end of the original run, we can all participate in.
It's usually a lot of fun to kind of compare episodes one against the other. So if you like doing that, if you've got a particular favourite, our friend Columbo File over at columbofile.wordpress.com is running a wee poll. Might be worth chipping in with your favourite episode and see which one comes out on top.
Yeah, good idea. But yeah, overall, great episode. Enjoyable, brilliant, fantastic. Compared to last week, it's a business.
Yeah, I think this is, like I say, one of the best. I think Shatner is an excellent villain. I think that he plays the part perfectly here with insight himself into a character who has insight. It's just beautifully done.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Shatner's type of acting, his style, is ideally suited for a Columbo killer.
Yeah. Really interesting to know if you've got any trivia on Shatner, actually.
Yeah, before I talk about William Shatner, a couple of other people we've missed here, or
Okay.
I've missed. Mark was played by Bert Remsen. He died in 1999, aged 74. He was in Whitney Houston's The Bodyguard, Code of Silence with Chuck Norris, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Dallas, Peyton Place, The Dick Van Dyke Show. He broke his back in 1964 when an 84-foot crane fell on him.
Oh dear.
He eventually recovered, but had to walk with a cane for the rest of his life, and he walked with a cane in this episode.
There you go.
Ward Fowler, Lieutenant Lucerne,
Yeah.
played by William Shatner.
The William Shatner.
There's not much trivia I can
Star
reveal.
Star of T.J. Hooker.
For me, star of T.J. Hooker.
And Boston Legal, which was a sensational series.
Yeah, not watched it. I've heard fantastic things about it, and in fact, he won Golden Globes and an Emmy for his role in that.
Yeah, he and James Spader in that series were really very good. It was a very watchable show.
Mm-hmm. He's been in hundreds of things over the years.
Yeah, you couldn't list them all.
No, recently, Beep, My Dad Says, Third Drop from the Sun, Ironside, The Defenders.
He was great in Third Rock from the Sun.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I like that show.
But not only an actor. His renditions of Rocket Man, Lucy in the Sky, Common People are just as famous, I would have thought.
Yeah, and also right now he's become a filmmaker. So he's now on his third one. He started out with ones about Star Trek fans, one about the captains. So he had all the different series captains: Scott Bakula, Kate Mulgrew, Patrick Stewart, Avery Brooks, and himself talking about their roles in Star Trek. And he's got a new one now about the production of Star Trek: The Next Generation and how it came to be taken on and taken forward. And I think a lot of folk are really looking forward to that.
Now, is that different? I know that he has written a number of Star Trek novels.
That's separate.
Yeah.
These are not fiction. These are documentary type
Sure.
films. Yeah, I think there was a series with Skynet or something like that it was called.
Okay.
I know that's wrong. That's out of Terminator. But there was a set of novels that he wrote for Star Trek that were popular.
He's also, and obviously, got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Of course, it would be ludicrous if he did not.
Yep. And he has a couple of autobiographies out there, as I mentioned. Up Until Now, I think, is the one I've read.
Okay.
Really fun, entertaining.
He's that kind of guy.
He is. But yeah, T.J. Hooker. Did you watch T.J.
I never really watched T.J. Hooker. I think I've seen bits and pieces of him kind of diving around the bonnets of police cars and stuff like that, but not really one that I've spent a lot of time with.
Yeah.
He was also in the original Star Trek, apparently.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
Who did he play in that?
Can't remember.
One of those yellow shirts, or
It might be one of the red shirts that gets killed.
Right, okay.
It was that or one. I can't remember.
Any Star Trek movies, did he?
He was in Generations, the first of the Next Generation movies, but he got killed off in that.
Okay. Born in 1931, still with us.
Obviously, still vital and active.
Some production information.
Okay.
10th of October 1976, at the 73-minute length this week, which I enjoy.
It's much better, I think.
Mm-hmm.
The long ones, sometimes you get some good stuff in them, but they don't need to be that long.
Nah. Bernard L. Kowalski was the director on this occasion.
Okay.
We've met him 3 times before. This was his 4th and final appearance. His first was Death Lends a Hand.
There you go.
2 people involved in the writing of this episode. Give him credits for the teleplay. Lou Shaw. This was the second of 2 Columbo episodes he had played a part in writing, the first being Case of Immunity.
I know about him.
Do you?
He was famously involved in a court case.
Who was?
Lou Shaw.
Was he?
To do with the rights to use the name The Equalizer or the character.
Oh, yes. Ah, right, okay.
So, I'll put a link up in the show notes.
Okay. And Peter Feebleman was also credited with the teleplay. He wrote 2 Columbo episodes, this and next week's Old Fashioned Murder.
Obviously, maybe did 2 for 1 when he sold them on.
Interestingly, he only had 3 other writing credits to his name.
Not much of a writer then.
No, not at all.
Oh, worked out for this episode.
And in fact, he had has a small acting role in next week's.
Well, that's interesting. A double-edged one there. Maybe he wrote it for himself.
Yeah, but he's only done 5 things. in terms of writing for screen.
He must have had a career in something else.
Yeah, probably theatre.
Well, and it sounds like an interesting character. We'll maybe look at him in more depth
Yeah, there's not
next
a lot.
week.
There's not a lot there, but maybe we can find out a little bit more.
We'll do some digging.
Mm-hmm. Some general trivia before we get to the episode review.
Oh, okay.
There was only 3. This is now season 6, as we know. And there are only 3 episodes in this. And that's mainly due to Peter Falk's other commitments in terms of other projects and work.
What was he working on?
Don't know. Movies and stuff.
Okay, thanks, trivia guy.
Cheers. Richard Allen Simmons. He took over as the primary producer for season 6.
From?
Well, there's been lots of guys over the years, but we had initially Lincoln Levinson, then with Bochco, Kibbe,
Dean
Hargrove, and Peter S. Fisher. But they've all left by this point. So Falk had to have someone that he could trust, and Simmons was apparently a fairly close friend who he'd worked with in the past. And Simmons was the producer who saw out most of the remaining Columbo episodes.
There you go.
There we go, yep. So, will we move on to the episode review? I think it's fairly straightforward this week, which I enjoy.
It was beautifully straightforward, I would say.
Motive.
Blackmail.
Yep. Simple as.
He couldn't take any more.
Mm-hmm. Clues. I'll do the usual, read them out, tell me what I've missed.
Okay.
The bullet hole position. The description of the killer. The lack of robbery. Apparent lack of robbery. The makeup and the mask. The VCR. The true identity of Fowler. The watch losing time.
Okay.
Anything else?
Platform shoes.
Yeah, platform shoes.
That made him the height he needed to be fit in the description.
Yes. Gotcha.
Yeah, good one.
Yep, fingerprints.
Just should have been trailed a bit better, I think.
Yeah.
Or at least hinted at.
Mm-hmm. So, really, this episode is, I said at the start, it's just about perfect. Performances, the right amount of comedy. You felt Columbo was doing his job properly. The clues did not. They were believable. They were good. The actual plot itself wasn't a crazy, really ostentatious murder.
It wasn't absurd. There wasn't, you didn't have to really suspend disbelief egregiously to get into this one. I thought it was an accessible episode, which I think helps. I think it's the kind of one you would show to someone who says, show me what Columbo's like.
No, I would show them Last Salute to the Commodore.
Well, if you can only show them one, you would show them Last Salute to the Commodore. But this is one of the ones you might select.
Yeah. No, definitely. It certainly is. It's one that's it sums up the Columbo formula and structure perfectly.
Yeah, and it's got some great performances and
really enjoyable.
It's just enjoyable and fun.
Yeah, it was
a fun episode.
Yeah. Next week.
What have we got next week?
Old-fashioned murder, and we'll be 2/3 of the way through the season next week.
Yeah, that's it. We're actually getting close to the end of the original run now, so we'll be thinking about a second special episode. If only there were another pre-1971 episode to look at.
If only.
See what we can come up with.
So yeah, Old-fashioned murder is next week.
Yeah, well, you're an old-fashioned kind of guy, so that'll fit in nicely.
Yeah, well.
We really ought to have opened season 6 with the concept again, because people who are jumping in at this point, we've started a Facebook page and folk are coming in. Can we do it now? It's not too inappropriate, is it?
No, you can. That's the thing, that we got a lot of new listeners because of the Facebook profile last week, and they're going to be introduced to the podcast with me basically shouting about how much I hate Columbo. I'm not sure if it's the best representation of my beliefs in there.
To be fair, the comments that we've had on Facebook for the episode tend to agree with you. So.
Yeah.
The concept for the podcast, though, you are the world's foremost Columbo expert.
No, I'm not.
I am new to the show. I watch the episodes for the first time each week.
Yes, you are.
And then we talk about them.
Yeah, that's it. That's straightforward.
That's pretty much it. We're going to go through them all, right up till the last one from 2003, in chronological order, apart from the two pre-71 series ones, which we have covered one of in episode 30.
Ransom for a Dead Man.
And one which we will get to.
Prescription Murder.
And we may throw in other special episodes now and then.
Yeah, but one or two.
If it's only one or two, we're probably pretty much at the halfway point of this podcast's life right now.
We are.
Exciting
times.
Is
that daunting or not for you?
Well, it means that it's downhill from here, right?
Well, you could say that. There's still some fantastic episodes to...
I didn't mean in quality, I meant in the production side of things. But yeah, lots to look forward to. People who are new, people who are old and haven't bothered yet, please go to iTunes or the podcast app on your iOS device. Rate the show if you like it. If you don't like it, please don't go and rate the show.
Don't listen.
Tune in to... visit ColumboPodcast.com. You can join the conversation. We're on Twitter at Columbo Podcast. We're now on Facebook as well. You can find us on there with a wee search for Columbo Podcast.
Yeah.
We enjoy talking to you. We enjoy hearing from you. It's always great. We love your feedback, so keep it coming, and we will see you next week.
Yeah. Cheers. Goodbye.
Cheerio.
You have been listening to the Columbo Podcast from Heard Yet Media.